Rachel has a dream about her doctor, Danny, and wakes up to find herself in an abandoned building. She remembers that she came to a hospital and enters an elevator as a voice says she has been chosen as a sacrifice. While going through a floor, she sees a bird suddenly get crushed to death as Zack menacingly says he'll let her run away for 3 seconds, so she hurriedly hides in a room and manages to evade him. After confirming that he's left, she rushes to an elevator and manages to leave the floor. On the next floor, she suddenly runs into Danny, who comfortingly says he's her doctor, and takes her to an operation room where he claims that he's lost something. As she's looking for it, he creepily shows her his lost eye and says he'll put it on right now. Rachel tries to run away out of fear, but he forces her down on a table and says she'll meet her Parsons in hell before Zack stabs him from behind. Rachel dejectedly gets up and asks him to kill her. When Rachel speaks, Zack wonders if she is as crazy as he was disfigured. He urges her not to say anything more disturbing than his appearance. Rachel then asks if he plans to kill her once they escape, but Zack says they should focus on getting out first. As Rachel finds the key on the doctor's body, Zack impatiently bangs on the door. Remembering the doctor's claim about the floor, she searches his pockets and finds the key just as the door opens. Impressed, Zack makes a deal with her. He'll grant her wish to die if she helps them escape, hoping she'd look better by then. Encouraged, Rachel agrees to help, so he asks her name, and they introduce themselves. They move to the 3rd floor, where Rachel notices something in the water, and at a graveyard. Rachel thinks about her own grave, while Zack feels weird about her appearance. She finds a record of deaths, including hers, while Zack destroys gravestones. Rachel asks Zack about his past as Isaac Foster. Surprised by her fearlessness, Zack remembers another encounter with a girl who claimed to be his fan, and after a tense moment, Zack ends the girl's life, leaving Rachel confused. Trying to reassure her, Zack destroys her gravestone, but she feels let down by the delay in her death. As they search for an exit, after leaving the elevator, they find themselves in a strange place. Rachel notices a locked gate and suggests the building might be empty, but Zack remarks that it's their only way out. Trying to force the gate open, he realizes it's too strong before an alarm suddenly goes off, and Zack protects Rachel from gunfire. A voice on the PA system says she was a girl named Kathy, claiming to be the floor's judge, ready to punish them for their wrongdoings. The gate opens, leading them to a locked door where Kathy orders them to take photos. In a dark room with weird drawings, Kathy says these represent their punishments, and while Zack explores another room with creepy puppets, Rachel looks for an exit. Zack, unaware, sits in a chair, only to discover it was an electric chair when it shocks him what a shocking discovery. Am I right, guys? All right, I'll stop. Kathy explained that Rachel had to stop the electrocution to free Zack. With Zack's life at stake, Rachel analyzed the puppets for clues, stopping the electrocution just in time. Zack, now awake, yells at her on the TV, and despite Kathy's voice still speaking over the PA, she opens the exit and they find another challenge in a room with toxic gas in which Zack tries to protect Rachel, who searches for clues despite weakening from the gas. Rachel feels weak, believing she's close to death. Zack, determined to keep them both alive, hurries to help her, putting the oxygen mask on her and encouraging her to keep going. Inspired by his determination, Rachel decides to continue, noticing a hole in the ceiling. Not understanding how to proceed, Zack lifts her into the hole where Rachel finds a keycard, but his attempts to use it fail, damaging the card, so Kathy warns them their time is up, increasing the danger of the gas. Rachel, determined to survive, makes a makeshift bomb with the gas and batteries, but she passes out after making it, causing an explosion that destroys the room. They manage to survive, but Rachel remains weak, and as they move towards the next challenge, Zack notices Rachel struggling and says she should rest. Hours later, they reach a cell with a dollhouse where Kathy says they could only leave if they solved the riddle with the dollhouse. Since Zack can't do it, Rachel figures out the puzzle, revealing painful memories. Overwhelmed, Zack tries to stop himself from destroying the dollhouse before Kathy says they've succeeded, locking them in separate cells. She gives them 2 syringes, one containing a vitamin and the other with a very dangerous drug. Zack bravely takes both syringe shots, sacrificing himself for Rachel. Exhausted and haunted by memories, he faces her, ready to keep his promise of killing her, but she reminds him of their promise to escape together. Afraid of being trapped forever, Zack frees her, promising to keep his word before pushing her away. As Zack's mind becomes clouded by drugs, Rachel runs away, determined to protect him. But as they find themselves trapped in a dead-end room, Zack approaches menacingly. With no escape, Rachel gets ready to surrender, but Zack is wounded by a bullet, and they face a barrage of guns aimed at them. Kathy appears, revealing they were in a firing squad room, threatening them with her remote control, and despite Zack's attempt to break the glass, he gets shot in the leg. Concerned for Zack's well-being, Rachel tries to help, but he insists she stay away, fearing he might lose control. Kathy offers her a gun, suggesting she ends Zack's life, but Rachel refuses. Zack, moved by Rachel's decision, wants to see her genuine smile, but her forced grin only worsens his mental state. Infuriated, Kathy starts insulting him, making Zack suffer. As she prepares to harm Rachel, Zack regains consciousness and fatally injures Kathy. Despite her attempts to retaliate, Kathy's weapons malfunction, and with Zack now awake, he leads Rachel to the control room, where they discover Kathy's control over the floor. Following a clue, Rachel opens the elevator, and as they ascend, Zack suddenly collapses, starts quickly losing blood. Rachel chooses to help Zack, pulling him out of the elevator. When he briefly regains consciousness, she notices his wound, realizing how severe it is. Worried about his life, she goes off to find first aid, determined to help him. In a poorly lit room, Rachel moves quickly. Suddenly, candles light up, revealing an empty chapel before a tall man with white eyes appears behind her, demanding to know her identity. Refusing to reveal it, Rachel learns he is the church's priest named Gray. Suspicious of his intentions, she questions him, so Gray offers to lead her to Danny's floor for first aid, but only after she passes some tests. Feeling time pressure, Rachel decides to return to Zack, hoping he is all right. Back with Zack, she tells him about her meeting with Gray. Though weakened, Zack says he's worried for her safety, but she reassures him and convinces him to rest, promising to save him, which he hesitantly agrees to. Returning to Gray, Rachel accepts his tests, pleading for Zack's life, and they descend in the elevator, surrounded by the eerie purple mist. Arriving on Kathy's floor, not Danny's, Rachel questions Gray's intentions, realizing she will be tested on each previous floor. Following Gray's directions, the purple mist fills the floor, and Rachel hurries to find the switch before starting to get chased by hordes of zombies. She quickly flees, managing to evade them briefly before heading into Kathy's control room. Rachel quickly operates the controls, shooting at the zombies as they approach. After dealing with them, Kathy's ghost appears, insulting Rachel, who remains unfazed and sees her disappear. Back in the cell, Rachel turns on the electricity and finds the elevator ready. When Gray asks about the enemies she faced, Rachel brushes them off, saying she handled them. Despite Rachel's lack of guilt, Gray takes her to Eddie's floor, and they arrive at the destroyed graveyard, where Gray explains the trapped souls. As Rachel tries to leave, a ghostly hand grabs her. She kicks it away and destroys the rest. After finding the switch in a locker, Rachel opens the elevator. Eddie's ghost briefly appears, questioning Rachel's emotions, but she ignores him and goes back to Gray. Confused by Rachel's behavior, Gray takes her to Danny's floor, planning to wait at the next elevator. Rachel, finding Danny missing, suspects he is alive and searches for first aid, finding nothing. Realizing the rooms are empty, Rachel hurries back to the elevator, thinking Gray is stalling her. He blames her for Zack's injury but suggests they look for bandages on Zack's floor, which she agrees with, and they both head down as Danny maliciously watches Zack's immobile body. I don't like where this is going. Zack suddenly regains consciousness, ready to face Danny. Curious about Danny's survival, Zack learns he has worn a protective vest and stitched his own wound. Fueled by anger towards Danny, Zack tries to attack him, but is held back by his injury. Danny admits he is fixated on finding Rachel's eyes, claiming Zack has already killed her. Danny angrily tells Zack that he wants to collect Rachel's eyes. Zack, realizing the extent of his evil, vows to take Rachel's life himself. Danny, seeing through his mistake, says Rachel has survived and proposes treating Zack if he blinds her. Refusing to betray their pact, Zack collapses from exhaustion as Rachel and Gray reach his floor. Rachel hurries to retrieve Zack's knife, hoping to arm him, only to return and find him gone. Suspecting Gray's involvement, Rachel faces his accusations and learns of Danny's survival, driving her to search for Zack. As Rachel searches, Gray claims to have uncovered her true self, ready to judge her for her sins. Accusing Rachel of her selfishness, Gray suggests she hopes Zack will kill her, but Rachel expresses that she genuinely wants to save Zack. However, Gray surrounds her in purple smoke, summoning a terrifying serpent. Rachel hurriedly flees from the illusion, encountering Zack, who pushes her away before the illusion disappears. Weakened by his injury, Zack falls down, disheartening Rachel. Unable to find medical supplies, she gives him his knife. They decide to find Danny. As they press on, Zack's strength slowly decreases, so Rachel decides to continue alone, determined to protect him despite his doubts. Rachel finds herself in a new corridor, following a trail of blood, hoping it will lead her to Zack. However, as she pursues it, purple smoke emerges, obscuring the trail. Running into the mist, she tumbles into a deep hole, waking up in a grave with Eddie's ghost before her. Repulsed, she rejects his attempts to bury her, defending herself by stabbing a headstone, which transports her to Kathy's torture chamber. Confused by the sudden shifts, Rachel endures Kathy's ghostly torture before being transported again, this time facing Kathy's reflection in a mirror. She then finds herself in a church, encountering Gray. She tells him to reveal where Danny is, but he declines and offers her medicine for Zack. Realizing Gray could help him, Rachel pleads for the medicine, but he refuses, blaming her for Zack's injury. He accuses Rachel of betraying Zack, labeling her a witch deserving punishment. Whose side is this guy on, bro? In a court, Kathy testifies, accusing Rachel of manipulating Zack. Kathy's death smile is highlighted, condemning Rachel for purposefully betraying Zack. Gray declares that Rachel is a witch deserving to be burnt alive, and a fire suddenly consumes her. Rachel, determined to prove her innocence, rejects Gray's accusations and refuses to confess to being a witch. She argues that such beliefs are not part of her faith. However, Gray claims to be God and asserts his right to judge her. Despite this, Rachel stands firm, challenging him. In a moment of resolve, she mentally transports herself and encounters an illusion of Zack as a divine figure, breaking free from Gray's manipulation. Upon regaining consciousness, she realizes Zack's knife had shattered the illusion, confirming her promise to Zack as her guiding principle. Rachel demands medication for his recovery. Gray complies, leading her to the medication, which she quickly takes. Upon returning to Zack, she finds him alive and begins tending to his wounds, expressing her devotion to him. Confused by her actions, Zack questions her motives, prompting Rachel to share her traumatic past with him. As they ride the elevator, Rachel thinks about confessing a deep secret to Zack, but ultimately decides against it as they reach a floor similar to her home, where she fears her secrets might be exposed. Warning, warning, trauma levels are about to go up. As Zack steps into the apartment, Rachel, clearly anxious, warns him about potential traps near a pair of dolls. However, Zack doesn't take her warning seriously and teases her about her appearance. Rachel, feeling overwhelmed, begs for relief before collapsing from a fever, leaving Zack to explore on his own. He encounters a disturbing doll and heads towards the elevator, only to find himself trapped by Danny. Feeling desperate to break free, Zack follows Danny's instructions to search for Rachel's hidden secret. Meanwhile, Rachel regains consciousness and is informed by Danny about Zack's situation. Determined to rescue him, she tries to enter the apartment but is stopped by Danny. Meanwhile, Gray discloses his dark experiment to Zack, intending to elevate him to a higher status. Zack is tasked with finding a specific nameplate, leading him to uncover Rachel's hidden truths. As Rachel observes Zack's progress, She realizes her past is on the verge of being exposed. Zack finds a disturbing news report about a double murder in which the bodies were sewn together with thread. Talk about some effed up stuff. Rachel's image appears on the screen as Danny tries to question her. In the room, he asks Rachel about the disturbing act of sewing her deceased parents together. Rachel admits to doing it, explaining that she wanted to keep her family together even after they died. She describes how she sewed their bodies together and even made her mother's mouth look like she was smiling, hoping for a peaceful existence with her reconfigured family. Danny sees similarities between Rachel and himself, noticing her resemblance to his mother. Zack, disturbed by what he hears, smashes the TV and goes back to Rachel, sensing her distress. He wonders if the floor holds any importance for her. Despite Danny's efforts to stop him, Zack continues to press Rachel about her intentions. Danny says she is a fallen angel who has sacrificed many lives before her breakdown. He questions the influence of her Bible on her actions. Afraid of being exposed, Rachel pulls out a gun and accidentally shoots Zack before fleeing. Zack, trying to calm her down, encounters a dangerous trap in the overflowing tub and gets electrocuted. This guy has a real knack for getting attacked by electricity, doesn't he? Rachel doesn't seem bothered as she causes an explosion and disappears. Zack approaches her and asks if she's going to keep running away before Danny puts a gun to his head, and she takes hers out. Rachel accidentally shoots Danny instead and takes out her frustration on him, considering him a bother and vowing to finish off Zack herself, expressing her disgust at his appearance and smell. Danny's soul departs as Zack questions Rachel's motives. Holding Zack at gunpoint, Rachel admits she still wishes for death. Despite Zack's confusion, he encourages her to shoot him. When she attempts to, Zack wrestles the gun away, leading to a struggle. Rachel pleads for her life, claiming Zack has rejected his role as her god. Zack denies being her god, but proposes they make a life vow together. Touched by his words, Rachel agrees. Later, while searching for the exit, they encounter Gray, who doubts Rachel's loyalty. Rachel affirms her independence, activates the building's power, and leaves. They find a clue to the exit but discover Rachel's gun is destroyed, raising suspicion. They cautiously head to the elevator, where Zack senses danger. Arriving at the lower floor, they remain wary of Danny's presence. Upon examining stained glass, they uncover a hidden staircase and head upwards, despite being uncertain. Rachel feels dizzy as they're climbing, but Zack gives her his knife for protection. Just as she thanks him, the building's emergency detonation begins. Things are about to surely get chaotic. The building starts getting covered in flames, so Rachel and Zack hurry up the stairs, narrowly dodging falling objects. Zack tries to bend the bars, but is stopped by the advancing fire, which triggers his traumatic memories. Rachel senses his distress and helps him. Zack, remembering his past suffering, manages to break through, and they continue forward with Zack using his scythe to remove obstacles. When they run into a large rock, Zack asks Rachel for help, calling her by her nickname. Despite the side breaking, he encourages her to keep going, and she vows to carry his promise within her before Danny suddenly shoots Rachel. Man, this guy seriously needs some therapy. Who the hell does that to the girl they love? Shocked, Zack begs Rachel to wake up, afraid of breaking a promise, so she addresses him by name, confirms his humanity, and expresses her desire to be wanted even in death. Gray suddenly appears above them and shoots Danny before telling Zack to escape, so he picks Rachel up and slowly starts walking out. As Danny is getting ready to shoot again, Gray shoots again, allowing Zack to get away. Danny starts to doubt his decision to kill Rachel and explains his goal of punishing those who break the rules. Gray argues back, explaining Zack's special role and how he lost his angelic status because of Rachel's influence. He admits his own villainous actions, recognizing how he tried to strip Zack and others of their humanity. Wanting to make amends, Gray let them go, putting an end to his experiments and his dreams of being godlike. Danny admits he wants to protect Rachel, not control her, hoping for her affection. So now he admits he was wrong. Gray acknowledges they were both human and apologizes for his past mistakes. As the building collapses, Danny thinks of his mother, finding comfort in his final moments. Meanwhile, Zack made it to the exit, worried about Rachel's safety. When he encounters the police, he surrenders, hoping to come back for her. Later, the media cover the facility's secrets, blaming Zack for crimes he denied, and Rachel, in therapy, can't stop thinking about Zack, feeling trapped in her routine. Despite her efforts to heal, she can't escape her past, finding solace only in being alone.